Let's just go right in that. What is IWOPF?
Sure. Okay, so this year, the 33rd International Week of Prayer and Fasting is going to be from November 15th through November 23rd. It's an interesting story. Long story short, we've been meeting at the Basilica for all these years, and we have an opening day or closing day for the week at the Basilica, and we work with all these groups. We work with the Asian Americans, the African Americans, the Hispanic Americans. They come together and they wear their outfits and they pray the rosary and with their beautiful, national dress. And then in between, we have speakers. Then we have the big high mass at noon. And then also confessions all day in the morning, confessions in the afternoon. And that's one of the big graces because the confession lines are always packed. And as the priests say, there's always some big fish that they catch. People who haven't been to confession in 30, 40 years. That's one of the graces, which, it's wonderful. So we have these confession lines set up. And the Legion of Mary, they collaborate with us and they organize the whole thing with confession because it's a big operation because they have to find different priests that can speak the different languages and set up the lines for a couple hours in the morning and then in the afternoon. And then we have the Divine Mercy Chaplet. And
this, Maureen, let me just, because we're saying basilica, just because there's lots of basilicas, but this is the basilica. Where is it?
The Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. It's beautiful. And a lot of graces. We started in 1997. We used to meet in front of the U.S. Capitol to pray. And at that time, it was the National Week of Prayer and Fasting. And then someone said, well, Our Lady really wants her son to be exposed in the Blessed Sacrament all day. Why don't you try to see if you can meet at the Basilica? So I thought, okay. And to be honest with you, I don't remember the details. I just know we called up there. I'm sure we followed through with the letter and they said, yeah, come. So the first year we moved from the front of the U.S. Capitol to the Basilica inside. And they allowed us to have the Blessed Sacrament in the upper church all day, which was a grace, except for Mass. Of course, Mass, the Blessed Lord is reposed, and then he's brought back out. So all day he's with us. And so that was a great grace. And that first year, 1997, the date was October 5th, which was, of course, Faustina's Day. And I don't think she wasn't a saint at the time. She became a saint a few years later. And we had invited Saint Mother, well, now, what am I saying? But she's a saint now, but at the time, Mother Teresa of Calcutta. And she said she would come. We had met her a couple times at places. We invited her, and we were all excited. The word was out that Mother Teresa was coming. And then exactly 1 month to the day, September 5th, 1997, she passed away to her eternal reward. So I remember sitting in my office because we had, all these flyers everywhere, and we were so excited. And I remember my mother walked in the room. She used to volunteer and help us. And she used to do the phones. And she said, well, Mother Teresa just passed away. And I was like, what? And I was crying and crying. And she said, well, now you have a friend in heaven. She can do more good up there than here. So that helped a little bit. But, we were so excited to have her. But I always remember the dates because, of course, now September 5th is her feast day. But yeah, we were sad about that. But that was the opening year at the Basilica, which was beautiful. I think the next year we had Dr. Bernard Nathanson. I don't know how many have heard about him, but he was the one that started abortion in, I believe, the state of Hawaii. He really pushed for abortion. And then later on, he had this huge conversion due to several people, including Father Frank Pavone and some others, but him especially. And I remember he came, I think it was 1998 or 1999, because when he came to speak, I remember looking at him and thought, wow, he looked awfully sad. His face was very, I think the word is long suffering, very repentant. And I went, oh my gosh. And he gave an incredible talk that we still remember. There's certain ones you'll always remember. And he got up there and said, I was a mass murderer. And everybody's like, what? And he gave the most incredible talk. In fact, we recorded it, and we did put it in an old magazine back then. I may actually take that out shortly and put it in one of the magazines for 2026, because it's such an amazing talk that he gave. And he really spent the rest of his life atoning for that, what he had done. But he also knew he received God's mercy, but it was very, very difficult on him. And then over the years, we had different speakers. 2000 was huge because we had Mother Angelica, and she came and spoke, and she was very special. That year, there were a lot of people at the Basilica, and she kept on, as she was up at the podium speaking about the Lord and the importance of adoration, she kept on turning to our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament, looking at him. I'll never forget that. She kept on talking to him. And we're all like, oh my gosh. She was just fantastic. So we've had many wonderful speakers over the years, all great people, different walks of life, many conversions, many stories. But this year, this is very interesting. We thought we were going to do it in October, because usually October is the date we do it. And we started to have this one particular place we were going to have it when we got a phone call, and the Basilica said, hey, we have November 15th open. Would you like to have it in November? And we have done it in November in different years, but usually we do it in October. So I thought, maybe there's a reason, something's up. And I was really ready to go on vacation, so I couldn't respond right away. Long story short, we got a call that possibly Cardinal Ernest Simoni, and I'll show you his picture in a minute, that he would be able to speak. And I thought, well, that would be interesting, because when we were working on having it in October, we had this circle that was blank, meaning we didn't know usually have the bishop that joins us, and that was blank. So I thought, well, it'll be interesting to see who it is. So lo and behold, we've got a phone call, and it's a woman that we know in our group. And she said, oh, by the way, he is available to speak November 15th. I went, oh my gosh. Okay. Basilica said that date's open. So we have Cardinal Ernest Simoni, and I guess at some point Dave and Joan can bring it up to show you. But we're excited because he was present to speak in Newark, New Jersey, and some people we know went there, and they were raving about this amazing cardinal who had been in an Albanian prison for 28 years. He was tortured, he was persecuted, and when he came out in 1981, apparently, he was Father Ernest Simoni. Somehow Pope Francis heard about him and asked him to come and meet with him. And this was in 2014. And there's some YouTubes showing the Pope Francis meeting with at that time, Father Ernest Simoni, and they're talking. All of a sudden, Pope Francis starts crying. And I went, whoa, that's powerful. And he was very touched by Cardinal Simoni, his humility and his holiness. And they say he has charisms like Padre Pio. So in 2016, Pope Francis raised him from a priest to a cardinal, just like that. I guess it's some kind of special elevator, go from priest to cardinal, and allowed him to go with the special blessing to go throughout the world and pray with people and give special blessings. And when we heard that he spoke in New Jersey in July, and the people they said he's very strong. He's 95 years old. So Blessed Mother, keep him strong. Keep him. So he's strong when he comes, but he's got a very strong voice. His testimony, they say, is phenomenal. So we will have to get a translator. They've had some people that work with him that know his story, so he's very good. And then he will, be spending time with people. So we're very excited to have him this year. And then Father Dan Rehill is an exorcist from Nashville, Tennessee, and he's got some great stories. I don't know how many of you go on the YouTube, but he is the director of Ave Maria Radio, and he has a lot of beautiful stories that he tells. And his own personal testimony is amazing. And we had a trip in April. We went on a Eucharistic pilgrimage tour. We took 2 busloads of people. at that time, we thought we were going for the canonization of Carlo Acutis. However, Pope Francis died Easter Monday. Only a pope can canonize a saint, so they canceled it. But the good news is we were able to visit Carlo Acutis's he's in a glass casket, and spend time with him, which was great. And we got a bunch of holy cards and touched his casket with the holy cards. But Father gave talks every day, Father Dan Rehill, a great homilist. Every day he gave beautiful, very relevant talks. And so we asked him to come back this year and speak at the Basilica. He's very powerful priest and an amazing testimony. And then, of course, we have Patricia Sandoval. She is another person who I think is one of the best women speakers out there. She's on fire for the Lord. I don't want to ruin too much of the testimony, but she has quite the background and really God's mercy, because the theme this year is the whole thing of mercy and healing during the Jubilee year of hope. And when you hear her testimony, God is taking all these people. And if there's an open heart, they're just being raised up. He's filling them with an abundance of graces. She was homeless. She had different abortions. Her family had really broken down. And then she started getting into all these troubles. And she wrote a book called Transfigured, which is a great book. And Father Calloway said he thinks it's one of the greatest conversion stories. So he put that in the front of her book. So I think that says a lot, because Father Calloway's story is pretty good. The other person we have is Andrew Niewald. I just heard about him recently, and he is with Adoration Foundation. He spoke at our SEMA group. And what I was struck by with him is they're trying to set up adoration chapels everywhere. They're trying to help parishes in different dioceses set up more adoration. And I thought, wow, I think we need. Mother Teresa said, what will convert America and save the world? My answer is prayer. Prayer before the Blessed Sacrament will save the world, especially America. So when I heard about him, we got in contact, because I thought, well, people need to know what they're doing. And there was a big National Catholic Register article on him. So he's Andrew Niewald. Yes, he will be speaking. And then we have virtual. So we started doing this back during COVID, where people do pre-recorded talks. And then during the week this year, it's November 17th, 18th, 19th, people go onto the website, and those talks on November 17th will be free. The talks on the 18th will be free. The talks on the 19th will be free. They're pre-recorded. But if people miss them, they can go back and they can purchase an all-access pass, and they can watch it throughout the year whenever they want. So a lot of prayer groups purchase it. We keep it low. It makes it really reasonable. So this way we get these beautiful talks to mobilize and encourage people. Some people buy it in their families so that they decide, oh, I can't find anything good on TV. Oh, I'm going to watch one of these talks. And we have Father Chris Alar is on there on this. We listed all the speakers and what they're going to talk about. So Father Chris is on the last day. And then we have different people like Father Lawrence Carney, who does a lot on the Holy Face. Dr. Andrew Kubik, who's warning us about euthanasia. That's a particular concern of mine. I'm seeing it more and more and more in the hospitals, what they're doing with hospice and other places. And it's not being talked about as euthanasia. It's policies that they're going through that they call it comfort care. But some of it's very deceptive, depending on the hospital, depending on the hospice. You have to be careful, because I have some friends that are in hospice. There's the good hospice, and there's ones that are more, depends on who is involved. But some places are using more drugs to hasten death. Some places are using or depriving people of water that they should have, because there's a whole thing that John Paul II put together of what we should have during the time when someone's very, very ill. But he has become an expert, Dr. Andrew Kubik, so I'm really interested in listening to him. And then we have Dr. Elizabeth Rex, she's talking about, in fact, Joan and Dave, you can speak to her because you've heard her speak. Why don't you mention it? Because you told me about her, so we decided to get her.
Well, we've had Dr. Elizabeth a handful of times, and she's on the forefront. She's a bioethicist. She's got her doctorate in so many things. She's a professor, but her big thing is really about doing something about the frozen embryos. I can't remember how many millions of frozen embryos in children, and what to do about that. She's all for embryo adoption. She's a remarkable woman. And so anyway, yeah, I recommended her to Maureen, and I'm glad that she's got a platform there.
And she just came out with a book called Zygote. So I'm trying to get an advanced copy to be up on it, because this is becoming a real issue with these frozen embryos.
Yeah.
I have a doctor friend that I've known for years, and he's been really concerned about this. So he's glad that we're having her speak. Then we have people like Kendra Von Esch, and she's getting to be really well known. She had drug addiction and other issues in her life, and now she's out there and speaking, and she's touching a lot of people, especially young women. So we try to get these different speakers that will touch different people. And then if you go online to the main page, you'll see up on top, it says access at the top button. And then if you click on it, it gives you information on how much this year's, if you miss it, so it's free on the actual day. So if you see Get All Access up there, the red button
On the right. Mm-hmm.
they can go there and then they click on it. And so if you get the 2025's premium access, it's $29.99 a year. So you get all the talks. So it comes down to be like $2 a talk, something like, it's really cheap. But you do have expenses. We have to put together this program. We have to do flyers. We have to get the word out. We have to hire these video guys, that kind of thing. So we just make ends meet. But we're excited because then people, I think these are issues we all have to be up on and aware of, because it's affecting the culture and affecting the times that we're living in. But it's to really bring hope and healing. And Susan Tassoni will be doing a virtual this year, and she's really fantastic. The Purgatory Lady, they call her. She's up on everything about souls in purgatory, the novenas. She has so many great stories. She did a book with kids on purgatory that is doing very, very well. She's one of EWTN's, I think, most prolific writers. So we're excited to have her this year. And then we have Kathleen McCarthy, we just did a big story on her in the last magazine. And of course, Segi Acosta, who heads up the Legion of Mary. She's one of the leaders, and we've worked together for years. And she is a doctor. She does a lot of counseling. She has a book, is it Psychological or Diabolical? It's a great book. And she works with a lot of different people. We have Father Tom Celso, who does a lot with Divine Will, and that's exploding. This is Servant of God, Luisa Picaretta. And she lived on the Eucharist, I believe, for 65 years. That's it, on the Eucharist. But our Lord gave her many writings. I think there's so many volumes, 38 or 39 volumes. Anyways, he's become like one of the preeminent experts on her life and on the meaning of what some of these messages are. And he's a great speaker. He's very, very popular. So he will be speaking. And who am I missing? Oh, we have Father Robert Altier and Ted. They will be both speaking. Father Robert Altier, he has done a lot of excellent talks recently on the Holy Face. I'm big on the Holy Face now. That's what will destroy communism, along with other things, Freemasonry. And then Father Carney talks about that too. Father Lawrence Carney has done a lot on the Holy Face apostolate. So that's starting to get really well known. And then Ted will be giving a talk on, I believe, tying in the Garabandal, what's coming with the warning and the miracle, and how it ties in with these times that we're living in, and what the call is for us at these times. So it's a great group of people. We need a lot of prayer, because I understand when Cardinal Simone comes, it's so powerful. We have to get prayer backing, because you have the disruptors. I call them the disruptors that come in. Sometimes there's the above disruptors, and sometimes there's other disruptors. So, we pray, we ask that you pray that this goes according to God's perfect will. And I think November is a good time because November leading up to November 23rd, the 100th anniversary of Jesus being proclaimed as Christ the King, King of the universe. So it's huge, Christ the King, King of the universe. I went to Christ the King school when I was young, in like elementary school, Christ the King. So I've always loved that name, Christ the King. It's powerful. And then as an aside note, I'll tell you something really neat. So this has to do with Carlo Acutis. So we've been big fans of Carlo Acutis. Once I heard about him through a friend of mine. So we were disappointed when we went on pilgrimage and they were going to canonize him September 7th. So lo and behold, excuse me, my daughter Colleen, who helps us a lot with the apostolate, she works here. She felt called to go. She goes, I'm going to go back. I said, really? She said, yeah, I want to go back. I want to show you this picture. And so she gets a hotel and she's ready to go. The person that was supposed to go with her couldn't last minute. So she tried to get a refund. They wouldn't let her get a refund. She was very frustrated. And then she said, oh, heck, I think I'm supposed to go. I said, maybe you're supposed to go. So she calls my son, Danny, whose kids, well, one of them had a real devotion to Carlo. And she said, you want to bring your kids? I've got a room. I can't get out of it. And he goes, okay. So he decides to go with Liam, who at the time was 10, and Evan, his younger brother. They go together everywhere. And he's 9. Then 2 other young women, 21 years old each, separately wanted to go, heard Colleen was going, and asked, can we go with you? Colleen's like, sure, come on in. So they had adjoining rooms, the girls on this side, Danny and the kids. And what happened, they sent tons of pictures. The canonization was packed. It was gorgeous outside. There was people everywhere. They got this great picture of Pope Leo, going through the crowd. I'm like, you were so close to where he was. It was great. And Colleen was funny. She got this perch for the boys so they could be up there, look out, because they're kids. And some other women came over, like trying to butt in. She goes, nope, can't butt in here. These kids are staying where they're at. She goes, I'm like, no, you can't move here. I said, good for you. So they had a great lookout so they could see. So it was beautiful, but here's the icing on the cake. So they go back to the hotel, and again, that was the room she was trying to see if she could get out of, and they wouldn't give her the refund. And who later is sitting on the couch? Mrs. Acutis.
Mrs. Acutis.
Mrs. Acutis and her husband. And so Colleen and Danny and the boys went over and talked with her, and she got, I'll just show you this. It's cute. I think I'm okay showing this. Yep.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see it. There's Mrs. Acutis.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
There's Liam
Cute.
up above. He turned 11 yesterday on Our Lady's birthday. He was very proud that he's on her birthday. And Evan is right next to her, and he is 9. And so she was very, very gentle with them, very loving. And Colleen was just impressed with the way she handled them. And then she said, remember, pray your rosary every day.
Oh.
And the way she said it was just beautiful. And so the next day, Colleen took Liam out to get some gifts, for others. And he goes, now we have to go back and we have to pray the rosary.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it really stuck with him.
Oh,
So that was just a beautiful grace from God.
golly.
When we had come back, when we thought we were going to the canonization and it, fell apart, we got him a statue of Carlo Acutis, which he put in his room. That was back in April, and he really loved it. So we were just excited. And this is let me see if I can do this. Let's see if I can show this real quick. I don't know if you can see it. This is all of them together.
Yes.
So you can see there's my son Danny's on the left, Colleen's with the blonde hair, and the 2 girls. There's 2 other young girls.
Uh-huh.
2 kids, and then Mr. Acutis is at the end on the right.
Isn't that
Spend
something?
time talking with them.
It's just not every day you meet the parents of a saint.
Boy.
And they said it was just so I just had picked her up at the airport, and I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was it? She goes, an 11.
An 11.
And it was like, she said, these people were so beautiful. They were so happy. And then she said to me, it's like the communion of saints in heaven are going to be. I said, you know what? That's true. A lot of pilgrimages are like that. Not everyone, but many of them, where you just meet the most wonderful people, and most of them are very happy. And there's like this aura. It's just beautiful. Mm-hmm. And she said everyone was just so thrilled to be there. And anyways, they had a beautiful experience. So
what a blessing. What a blessing. Golly.
Imagine how that was multiplied there in Rome. Yeah. All the youth that were there. Yeah, we're running a little.
Yeah. Wow, Maureen, I'm so glad you were able to join. And the other big thing is, her International Week of Prayer and Fasting has been in October. The fact that they didn't do it at the Basilica last year, they did it in Virginia, that they called her to have it in November. And then the event is that weekend, and for a couple of days they've got the speakers, but all of us are asked to pray that whole week, concluding on, and it concludes on the last liturgical day of the year, Feast of Christ the King. And I thought it was the end of the Jubilee year, but I just did a little bit more research. That's not till January 6th, the Epiphany, but it is toward the end of the year, and it is the end of the liturgical year. And here we'll all be joined together, if you participate in this in any way you can, really sending out this year with a lot of prayer. And it's all by God's design, right, Maureen? You didn't say, oh, let's do it so we can go out with the year with a bang.
And you can sign up. When you go online, you sign up because it's free, but you'll get notices, you'll get emails to remind you, like a week before we send out emails. Because I know myself, if I sign up for something, you forget. So all of a sudden, they're not long emails, they're short. Just
and
reminder, 3 days we're having, so-and-so speaking for the, it'll remind you about the actual day, because this is going to be live streamed. The day at the Basilica will be live streamed for free on that day. So you just go online to IWOPF.org and you can watch it for free. And then each day coming up after Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is free. And you go online, but you probably want to sign up for the emails, which will go out to remind you this is what's coming up.
Right.
And again, the website, it's the International Week of Prayer and Fasting, and it's just those letters, IWOPF.org.
And so our job is to, tell everybody you can about it. And all right, Maureen, we're running a little late for the Holy Hour. Can you stay to pray the Rosary with us?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. We've got prayer responders. So we'll go ahead and zoom over to Vilnius. We'll do those opening prayers. Maureen, you'll just do each of the 5 decades.
I'll just pray with you. Yep.